Okay, Jordan, thank you for being here. I mean, you've come a long way. Let me ask you a couple of questions first. I mean, we are very similar with a different age. I mean,
Yeah.
you started very early, and I started pretty late. I mean, I was an entrepreneur when I was about 45,
Okay.
and you have done it before 20. So, can you tell me how you started? I mean, how did you start?
Yeah, I always really had, I feel, this sort of entrepreneurial mindset. Like from a young age, I remember selling my old toys and things like that. Just trying to make any sort of business I could. And then when I was 9 years old, I discovered programming and realized that was something I was good at. So it was just sort of down to combining a talent I had with that entrepreneurial mindset. And ever since then, things have been fairly good for me.
How did you learn to code? I mean, on yourself, or I mean, you went to school? How did you do that?
Yeah, it's sort of like a self-taught. I always had an interest in technology, like playing video games or like messing around my computer. But it just came down to an interest. Like I saw a game that some of my friends were playing, and they were making their own sort of add-ons to it. So I just thought that'd be a fun hobby. So I started watching videos on YouTube, reading websites, reading forums, and just building up a bit of a knowledge on programming. And then whenever I wanted to move on to something new, like a new challenge, for example, it was games then, I just learned each step along the way. And yeah, it was just sort of a self-learning process.
What was the first business that you could really call a business?
My first business was called Casey Games. So that
Okay.
was a mobile games company that I started when I was 12, so about 4 years ago now. And basically, what Casey Games was, we published iPhone games, Android games, myself and a couple of others. And it all came down to me like just wanting a new challenge, like I said. So my first bit of programming was with websites, and I moved on to games, and then I found like my love in iPhone apps. The only problem with publishing iPhone apps is, for those of you who don't know, to make iPhone apps, you need an Apple Mac, which especially for like a 12-year-old like me, are really expensive. So I had to try and convince my parents to buy me a Mac, and at first they weren't really interested. They didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I had to go to drastic measures, and I had to forge a letter from Apple and send it to my parents, pretending to be an Apple executive to convince them to buy me the Mac.
Good.
And yeah, so they bought me the Mac. I published my first game, and yeah.
What happened with the company?
Yeah, the company was pretty successful. Some of my games went to the top of the iOS charts. I got a huge experience out of it. I got a lot of really good connections from it. I have a lot of really good contacts now. Yeah, but it was just I really wanted a new challenge. Like that's sort of what everything has been leading up to. Whenever
What is the challenge you're working on at the moment?
yeah, the challenge I'm working on at the moment. So after Casey Games, I moved on to an app called Teachware, which was a application for teachers to easily manage all their students' information. It just came down to wanting to solve a problem in the classroom because in Ireland, where I'm from, technology in education is pretty unknown. So it's just trying to solve a problem through technology. So that was pretty good. I had at peak 50,000 classrooms on the service, so it was probably my most successful business. And then I had my games company, I had my educational company, and my third company now is trying to combine gaming and education. So my current app is called Kids Code, which is an online game that
Kitco.
yeah. So it's
Okay.
an online game that teaches children how to program in a fun multiplayer environment. So everything I've been doing has been either gaming or education, and now my new challenge is combining the both of them together.
And Kitco is going to be a mixture of both.
Yeah, so it's like a kid would log on, create a character in this game, but what we've done is we've built a visual programming language within the game. So while the child is playing the game with their friends in this sort of world, they're able to learn programming at the same time. So it's really cool. We want to teach children the fundamentals of programming. We want to teach kids collaborative teamwork skills, so they're working with their friends on problems. They're getting new skills from that, and also creative skills because with programming, I believe you can be really creative. Like I see
How
it as
far is it at the moment? I mean, how many users you have?
at the moment. So I've been working on it for the past year. Early January, we started a testing phase, and we're just about to launch our public testing phase. So
Okay.
we have testing with us. We took private sign-ups, about 300 people. So we haven't actually publicly launched yet. We're just trying to get as many opinions as we can. So when we do launch it publicly, it's perfect. So I've been working on it for a year. I have a couple of my friends involved. It's really my passion project. It's something that I really believe in. So yeah, it's looking pretty well.
So now it's the other way around. You're buying the apple to your parents, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. My parents have been really supportive to me though. Like I said at the beginning, they didn't really understand what I was doing. They thought I wanted to like play games and like on my computer, and I wasn't really doing anything productive. So they used to always encourage me to go outside and play football. But when they actually realised what I was doing, when I kind of sat them down and told them what I was doing, ever since then they've been really supportive. Like they've allowed me to travel to different places for conferences. They come with me a lot. They've given me a lot of free time. To work on my business. So like without my parents, I wouldn't be here today. So I do owe them a massive.
Are you still going to school, to university? I mean, what are you doing at the moment? I mean, are you studying, or just you're so busy doing business that you don't have the time?
Yeah, I am still in school. So in Ireland, well, I'm in secondary school now. So in Ireland, we have a year called transition year, which is a really cool year because it allows kids, just before we do our main exam, before we go off to university, it allows us to sort of have a year to see what we want to do in life. So it allows kids to like have a bit more free time. It's not fully about the academic side of it. It's about like sort of discovering yourself, what you want to do in your career, what you're interested in. So this has given me a lot of free time to focus on the business. So I haven't actually like gone to school too much because it's not much focus on academic side. But then next year I'll have to focus on my exams again. So it's all about just having a balance and a good structure to what I do. So just I go to school normally, obviously, and then I work on my business in the nights, and then the weekend I have to like take a break from everything.
And how do you interface with your people your age that do not have your challenges? I mean, the normal people that are just going to school. I mean, how do you get by with them?
I get along great with my friends. Like I'm sort of treated like a normal student, really. I don't really like see myself as anything different from like my friends. My friends thankfully don't see me as any different. So I'm really lucky in that regard. Like I'm just treated pretty normally. Like I get on with my friends a lot. I love football, so that's pretty much what we talk about most of the time. And then a lot of my friends are interested in technology as well, so they always give me ideas and they're asking for like opinions and feedback and stuff like that. So yeah, I get along pretty well with my friends. It's not like any different relationship or anything, which is good.
Well, now is your turn. You ask me questions. I mean, what do you want to know about me, or about what happened about 30 years ago with software?
Yeah, just like what was your story? Like you mentioned, like you started as an entrepreneur.
Well, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, I was the general manager of a real estate company.
Okay.
And we had to do a lot of drawings at the time. And I had to go to UK, do them there, and it was very expensive.
Okay.
And when I came back, I met we were in the Middle East at the time.
Okay.
I met a guy that was a programmer, a German programmer, and I got friends with him. And he convinced me to buy one of the first PCs that came to the Middle East.
Okay.
That was about 30 years ago.
Deadly.
And I talked to him, and during dinner, I told him that I just had come back from London, and I had this experience. I had to pay thousands of pounds to get that done.
Yeah.
Very, very expensive. And he told me, well, you know that there is a situation now. I mean, I have just bought from Germany a plotter. And I said, well, what the hell is a plotter? Huh?
Yeah.
I didn't know what a plotter was. No? He said, well, it's a machine that you can drive from the computer and can do drawings.
Okay.
And I told him, show me. So he brought his plotter with my computer, and then he did in a small program and did in a small design. And I said, gee, I mean, that looks interesting. To make a long story short, he did a program. We created in a small company, the two of us.
Yeah.
And we sold that to an architect business in the Middle East, I mean, in Dubai. And that was the first thing I did. I mean, and I got in love with software at the time.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning. The second thing, a year later, was another problem with, you probably now don't have any problems because, I mean, all the telephone systems have obviously progressed a lot. No? Yeah. And you have all sorts of ticketing and everything. But at the time, you got an invoice from the telephone company and you didn't know what it was for because they couldn't measure it. They couldn't really measure it.
Okay.
So we did the first measuring system for software on the large telephone exchanges.
Deadly.
So that was the very beginning.
That's pretty
And
cool.
then since then, I've been in technology. So for the last 30 years, I've been doing business in technology. In 1982, I went to the US, and I had an interface with a company called CompuServe, who was a business online.
Okay.
And when I came back, I mean, I thought that internet that I had seen in the US was going to change the way business are doing. And since then, I've been investing in first as an entrepreneur and now as an investor.
Deadly. That's pretty cool. So like, you started your first business when you were what, 45 or?
Yeah, I was 42 at the time. Well, I mean, I was the general manager of a large company, and then I left the company and I started my business. I was 42.
Okay. So like,
So,
what?
so I mean, you got a lot of time to reach there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So like, what was the difference? Like, what attracted you to like wanting to do your own thing? Like why did you leave? Like,
Well, I think it's passion. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you have at the end of the day. I mean, when you're working in an environment of a large company, I mean, you are expected to do what you are told.
Yeah.
And once you start doing something on your own, and you understand that you can do things without really guidance from other people,
yeah,
you become very independent, and you want to have your own thing.
yeah, true. Yeah, like I've noticed that myself. Like, I've done some like internships at companies, and it's not the same. Like, I want to create my own job. So.
How many people have you had in the company that you have at the moment? How many people you have working with you?
Yeah, I try like, obviously it's really important for myself, especially to collaborate with people. So for my first company, Casey Games, I established a network of people my age who were doing similar things. So I gathered artists, music developers, things like that. We all came together. We just had this like network of like 15 people together making games. So that was really cool. Then with Teachware, I had 3 other people building it with me. They're all developers. And then with Kids Code has been a really fun experience for me because with the transition year and the sort of time off, a lot of my friends have a lot more free time as well that they wouldn't have. So I've sort of tried to get them involved as well. So it's me and my friends that live near me, and we're working together.
Are they also co-investors? I mean, they are also co-owners of the company? Or?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm the sort of like chief executive, so I'm sort of the team leader. But yeah, my friends obviously get a share as well. So yeah, it's just the 3 of us. It's been.
But you still have the majority.
I do, yeah. That's
Okay.
important. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just the 3 of us. So
Did you have to look for money outside your own investment, or you don't need it?
So with my first 2 companies, with Casey Games and Teachware, it was pretty much just I bootstrapped it, did it myself. Didn't really feel that I needed much to see my vision. But with Kids Code now, I realised that like it's such a big project that I actually do need to look for financing. So obviously with my age, there's a bit of a difficulty in trying to get investment. Also a legal difficulty as well, because I'm not the actual like director of the companies. My parents are. They're like on my behalf. But yeah, I've gone to a couple of investors, and I've managed to get some initial funding, and a couple of companies like Accenture and Google have been really good to me. So yeah, we've managed to get some financing for Kids Code, which has allowed us to grow.
Did you get some money from Google Ventures, you said?
We didn't get money from Google Ventures. Google's education team,
Okay.
Google for Education, they do a sort of grant, so they support us a little bit. So yeah, we've grown fairly steadily since then. So it's pretty good.
Do you work with them pretty often, with the people from Google, the environment of the ecosystem of Google
Yeah,
in Ireland?
yeah. Like Google Ireland is they have a huge office in Dublin. So yeah, it's really cool to be in sort of that sort of environment and ecosystem with such a big technology company. But at the same time, it has that sort of startup environment. Like everyone, it's really different, I think, from most big companies. So the environment there, the people there are really creative and helpful. So it's a really good environment to work in.
What is the thing that you find more difficult, being the age you are, being a young guy? I mean, what is the thing that you find more difficult?
Yeah, so obviously there can be some disadvantages to my age. Like again, with school, it is hard to have that balance sometime, and you need to have your organisation. Then again, like just being taken seriously is pretty difficult. like in the past, before kids could, they'd like looking trying to get investment or mentorship, but because of my age, I've been like seeing away straight away. So I noticed pretty early on that like when I was in Silicon Valley, and I noticed that they sort of have a different approach. They would invest in a child or a kid if they had a good idea. But I did notice in Europe it was a bit different. They did think about your age and like your experience. So I think that's changing a lot. But just being taken seriously has been difficult, and like obviously the legal restrictions as well. My parents have to act as my directors on my behalf, which can be a bit difficult. But yeah, just the age barrier is really hard, and I think people are starting to realise the creative capability of kids, and when they're given the right support.
What is the main difference you find when you went to Silicon Valley? I mean, what did you find that was different?
I just saw there was a lot more young people really. Like there's a lot more sort of garage like companies, and like investors were investing a lot into kids' ideas, and they were giving a lot of support to kids. And then in Europe, when I came, there was pretty much there's not a lot of support for young people. Like trying to get investment, it's just a completely different atmosphere. You're expected to have sort of that experience, and like you're expected to have sort of like you've expected to work in this industry before. But in America, it's solely on the idea you have, and like whether
Did
it
you
can
have
work.
the opportunity to have pitches in the US? I mean, with Silicon Valley investors. I mean, did you have a pitch there?
I didn't. I did meet a lot of my mentors there, though. They've given me a lot of support. Whether when I'm trying to get mentorship, even in Europe, it was difficult, but in America, they took me with open arms. But I've also been lucky to have worked with the European Commission on the digital agenda, given a young person's perspective, and I think that in the last couple of years, especially with the emergence of people that are similar to myself, like Europe has started to take notice, and I think that in the future there'll be a lot more support there for kids.
Are you thinking of changing the place where you are? I mean, going to Dublin or to the UK or any other place, or the US? I mean, are you thinking of moving, or you think that you can do everything from where you are?
So yeah, that's something that's on my mind a lot. I live in a small city in Ireland called Waterford, and there's not a huge amount of things.
How small is so small? How many people?
Like 35,000.
35,000?
Which
Okay.
which is yeah, it's relatively small. It's big for Ireland, but it's pretty small. Like there's not a lot of a tech scene there, and it's been hit hard by like recession and stuff like that. So I don't think that's where my future lies. Dublin has a huge startup atmosphere. There's a lot of big things going on there. But ideally, I'd like to go to London. I really like the atmosphere there. The startup, there's a huge startup area around there in Shoreditch, and I just crave that sort of adventure in my life, and that's where I'd like to go.
Well, I think that it has developed a lot. I mean, I've been in London recently, and,
Yeah.
and the amount of projects there are very interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
at the presentation I mean, there were a guy that was, have you heard about crowdfunding, I guess, no?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the guy that created Crowdcube did a presentation, and he started saying, you know, in the last 10 minutes, I've raised £1 million. So it was quite good. So it means that it's a very lively situation. So
Yeah.
I think the UK is developing in Europe very, very rapidly.
Yeah, and I do like obviously here in Madrid there's a huge atmosphere as well, like Barcelona and stuff like that. So like I would like to stay in Europe, but just ideally London. But like the stuff that's going on all over Europe, especially in the last couple of years, has been a huge emergence. Yeah, so I think it's really exciting times. Yeah.
And you think that you are more, I mean, you have the experience on both sides, I mean, education and games. I
Yeah.
mean, your heart is on games or on education, or you're still trying to make a decision about it?
Yeah, I'm still trying to sort of make a decision about it. Like, I just love building things. Like, obviously with gaming, it's close to my heart because I'm young and I play a lot of games. But on a logical sense, like I'm in education, I see education all around me, and like I see how outdated it has been. So I want to change that in a way as well. Like especially in Ireland, I can speak for we haven't really embraced technology in our education system, which I think can have a bad result on us because we have a lot of big tech companies coming in, but if we don't have the actual talent to deliver them, I don't think they'll stay for very long. So I think just trying to improve and solve problems is really attractive to what I do as well. But obviously games, because like I play games, I like making games.
What
it's
is
fun.
the game that you play most?
I love football, so I play a lot of FIFA. FIFA's probably my favorite game. I love football. Like it's been really important in what I do. I I've tried so many times to sort of combine my interest in business with my hobbies like football. So I've been really lucky. In January last year, I was here in Madrid at a conference, and I did a television interview with a Spanish channel. I forget what it was called. But when I got home, I got an email from Real Madrid, and they told me that they'd seen me on TV and they saw an interest in me. So I was invited to be a presidential guest at one of the La Liga games with Real Madrid. So that was pretty cool. So like ever since then, I've tried to combine my interests really, and yeah, I've been really lucky with the opportunities I've had.
What about education? I mean, what do you think needs to change in education? From the point of view of someone that is suffering it.
Yeah, like I think there's a lot of problems with education. I think the main problem is sort of the classroom environment we have. We live in a time where especially young people have any information, any knowledge they want at their fingertips on their phone. And I think that because many teachers weren't really born into this way of the internet, might be a bit intimidated by it, which is what I find. And obviously in classrooms, most of the time you can't really learn what the teacher doesn't know. So I think if we embrace the system where everyone learns at the same pace, even if you're a teacher, so like instead of having the teacher teaching the students and that's it, I think we should have an environment where the students teach the students and the teachers teach and the students teach the teacher as well, and they all learn at the same pace. And I think that would like create a more equal atmosphere. I think you'd be able to learn a lot more because the teacher would not be intimidated by the student knowing more about a certain subject than them. So I think just embracing that sort of system, like it's not just technology that needs to be brought into education, it's the whole system itself. We use an education system that has been around for hundreds of years, and I think the only thing that needs to be done now, and a lot of countries are embracing that, is just to allow the students to teach as well.
What is the key of what you're trying to do now? I mean, what is the what is the difference that you want to build on your new product?
With Kids Code, so it's just trying to again embrace technology as well. Like in my school, for example, we have a state-of-the-art computer room, but all we learn is Microsoft Word and Microsoft Office. I think that's down again to the teachers not having the sufficient knowledge to teach. So I think that with my application, allowing kids to teach themselves, but also allowing adults to teach themselves with the application, I think just self-learning has a big part to play in education, and I'm just trying to create an application that puts that into an infrastructure more easily. But that's what I'm trying to do, just allow people to learn at their own pace.
Now, let me ask you something that is not so easy to answer. I mean, when you had the experience of having many people working around you, I mean, there were mainly boys, or there were some girls as
mainly
well?
Boys, yeah.
Mainly boys. Why is that? I mean, girls do not like coding?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question for me to answer, but yeah, I just think like it's just sort of like a stereotype that boys are like made for like technology, which is obviously not the case as has been proven. But like I just think that more needs to be done just to encourage more girls to get into technology. Like there's a lot of programs in place. The European Union are really focused on it. It's just giving girls like the tools, like telling them about it, like
it's a funny thing. I mean, I started investing in startups about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And at the time, there were only boys. I mean, only. And in the last 4 years, probably about 30% of women. So it's changing.
Yeah, it is. It obviously is. It's going really, like it has emerged. Like the programs are obviously working. It's just providing the support to the people that want to get into it really. And I think it's going to be a lot more equal over the next few years.
How often do you travel to this type of event?
Pretty often. I started speaking when I was 12. Because I used to be a really shy sort of person, so it was obviously a new experience to me. But ever since I did my first talk, I've really embraced it, and I've been really lucky to be able to travel. I've got to a couple of places in Europe. I've been to the Middle East a few times. I really like it over in Dubai. It's really cool there. I've been to America a few times. I've been really lucky to be able to travel to different conferences, and obviously get to experience the place, but also meeting really valuable contacts that I can have for the future, which has been extremely valuable for me. But I'm pretty lucky to get to travel.
When you go to a place, I mean, what are the things that you like from the place? I mean, you like to see what they do, or I mean, you just come in, have your chat and go away, or you stay a couple of days? I mean, how you do that?
Yeah, it depends on whether I like the event or not. Like I really like this sort of event. It's very like I like the sort of startup atmosphere about it, and I also like the sort of like it's all about the venues and stuff. But like usually I do stay for a conference. I do like to see all the talks because like usually like tickets for like these sort of events, like especially like in America and stuff, are really expensive. So like getting the chance to see like valuable talks for free is pretty cool. But yeah, I try to embrace it, but also I like to get like around the city as well.
What type of presentation you do normally? I mean, what is the type of presentation people ask you to do? And what do you prepare normally when you have a normal presentation instead of a chat like that?
Usually it's just telling my story, really, talking
Okay.
about what I've done in the past, my experience, just trying to inspire people to like think outside the box. Really, sometimes I do. I tend to talk about education a lot because it's something I have experience in. I'm still like I'm in education, and also I like to talk about like how people can like encourage you. Obviously, with the disadvantages I talked about with being like young and like not being able to get investment and stuff like that, I try to talk to the audience I have because usually when I'm speaking to an audience, it's pretty like high up, powerful people that can make a difference. So I try to encourage them to embrace more young people, share examples, like just speaking about how we can embrace young people, give them the right support. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, and then I've been able to talk about, which is pretty fun.
Now, if you've been to many places now, I mean, what is a place that has impressed you more than anything else? I mean, it's that Silicon Valley because of the amount of people there interested in technology, or what is London? I mean, what are the places where you really think that there is an atmosphere that is completely startup?
Yeah, like there's a lot of really cool places that I got to see. New York has a really cool startup atmosphere as well, but that's mainly focused on like the big corporations. Like I mentioned Dubai, like the atmosphere in Dubai is like amazing. Like I really liked it there. There's so many cool startups coming out of the Middle East, and like there's a really cool diverse atmosphere there. So like if I was going to look at anywhere else, I'd love to go to Dubai. It's really cool there.
Now, let's change subject. I mean, what do you think about math? How important is math for coding?
For me, I don't think like people sort of think like math programming is the exact same as math, but really programming is a lot down to logic. So like I don't think you have to be a completely huge math genius to get your heads around programming. Like I'm not a huge math genius. I'm okay at it. I can get it done, but like I'm not a real genius about it. But I do like to code, and I just think it's once you get the logic and once we kind of end that stereotype of programming, be like zeros and ones, like a lot more people will get into it. But I don't think it's too important in terms
you
of
don't
programming.
think is that necessary? I mean,
Not really.
You need to be good in math, but not a genius.
Yeah, like I don't think you need to be a genius about it. Just have your basic understanding. It's just more about the physics side of things. But like it's very logic based, and I think it's pretty easy to get your head around once you sit down and
now,
look at it.
this program that people learn when using your Kitco, is that a new program that you have devised, or is a development done from an existing program?
So we built our own visual programming language. So we've actually built it from scratch ourselves. So the language is called CloudScript. CloudScript. So it starts off very visual, very drag and drop based, but it is based off a version of JavaScript. So as the user progresses within this drag and drop based language, as they progress more and more, the language becomes more script and text based until the child has an actual understanding of a basic version of JavaScript. So we've just built it off of JavaScript, but the visual side of it, everything like that, has been built by us, which is fun.
Why the name?
CloudScript. Well, the name of the application used to be called Code Cloud. Because it was sort of cloud-based, and we had a little pixelated cloud as our logo. But then I realized that Code Cloud already existed, so I went in and looked for kids code, and just as like a sort of like mention to the old name, I just called the language CloudScript. So it's nothing like to do with like the cloud or anything like that.
How many people do you have now that really master the language?
We've been testing since January with a number of different students. We've also been testing with parents and teachers. At the moment, we have, I think, 25 people who have completed the whole course and have a full understanding of it, which
How
is really
long
good.
it takes?
So it took like 2 months for some kids, which is really cool to be able to see, because it shows that our method is sort of working. So yeah, it's been fairly positive so far.
And what type of applications can you build with it? Anything, complex things, or is that for easy things to just get familiar with coding?
At the moment it's mainly focused on games, so we're providing tools for games, just basic things, just to get like you said, your head around programming. So we're looking at partnering with different companies that like games companies that could provide us with templates. So we're teaming up with the guys that made Flappy Bird. So they provided us with templates, so you're able to build your own Flappy Bird, just to show kids, like, because Flappy Bird is such a basic game and it had so many millions of people downloading it. But we just want to show kids that it's actually not that hard to build a game like that. So they're one of the people we're teaming up with. As I mentioned, I have a sort of relationship with Real Madrid, so we're looking and seeing if there was any options for us to go down that sort of route. So sort of just provide you with the tools to make a sports game.
You're going to help them win the league.
I don't know about that, but yeah, like something like that, like it's just a sports game, stuff like that. I don't know if we'll be able to help them win the league just yet, though. Maybe in the future, technology will have a bit greater impact, though. Yeah.
Are you involved in the financials of a company or not really? I mean, you get the operations and let someone else do the financials.
I am involved in some capacity with the financial side. Luckily for me, both my parents are accountants, so they help me set up with my accounts every year, and they do it for free, which is very fortunate for me. But yeah, I do look at the finances. Like I manage the funding that we received. I was in charge of like where that was spent, so I do manage the financials in some capacity. But I'm looking at my parents to support me whenever I need them.
Very good. Do you have any other questions that you want me to answer?
So yeah, you mentioned like why you left the big company. Like what were the sort of main differences between working at a big multi-corporation to working at, like, I presume it was a startup at the beginning?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with what you were saying about the schools.
Yeah.
I mean, teachers are not up to it. Well, in large corporations, is what happens. I mean, there are very few people that really get up to date in technology.
Yeah.
So you get people that are running a corporation and don't understand at all the digital world, and that makes it very difficult. So I'd rather talk to people like you that understand what we're talking about. So it's easier for me to deal with people that understand that the world has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, the 21st century is completely different to the 20th century, and many people haven't noticed yet.
Yeah. So like you mentioned you worked on some like innovative like software that was like pretty important today. Like what do you think the future of technology will look like?
Well, I don't know if you've heard about something that in the US is now very well known, and here in Europe is starting, which is called singularity.
Singularity, yeah.
Have you heard the word singularity?
I'm aware of the term, yeah.
It's basically the interface in between robotics, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and nanotechnology. And the joining of all these technologies are advancing the world in a speed that no one has expected before.
Yeah.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to be a development that is completely different to what we have seen in the past 5 or 10 years. And I think it's key to understand that. And very few people in large corporations do understand it.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty cool. That's interesting. Like, what's the best project you've been able to work on?
Well, I mean, you see, it's like, who do you like best? I mean, if you have several children, I mean, I have now 21 investments, and they're my children, so I mean, I can't say who is the best one. Okay. But obviously, the last one we have entered is a very interesting one. There is a funny thing. I mean, in places like Spain or Germany, France, Italy, there are many people that have studied normal English, but don't understand, they cannot manage to speak or to listen or to understand it. Yeah. So frustrated people that have invested 5 or 6 years of their time to learn a language, and they are not able to master it.
Okay.
Okay, we have now developed a system that is followed by a theory of an American professor. And we have developed a company, Brainline, that basically what it does is, it addresses to frustrated people and teaches them, shows them how to learn English very rapidly. So it's a test that is running very well, and it's something that is very interesting because it's global. Anglo-Saxons obviously not, because they are born in English, no?
Yeah.
But people that are not, French, German, Italian, Chinese, Korean, they have the problem that many of them, spend a lot of money to go to school for 3, 4, 5 years, and at the end of the day, they can have a conversation. It's not, they don't understand what people are telling you.
Yeah.
And this is a method to really get these people to understand the language.
That's pretty cool. So, like, another question I'd have would be, what would you do to overcome something like a failure? Not really a failure, like when you've had sort of difficulty with maybe a bad investment or something like that. How do you actually overcome that?
Well, if you look at the average rate of success, we get probably less than 10% success in the investments we make, and we are very good.
Yeah.
So it means that the average is about 3%.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to fail in 90% of cases.
Okay.
So what you do is, there are 3 ways you fail. One is the entrepreneur gives up.
Yeah.
He's been working for 18 hours for 2 years, and then he says, well, I'm fed up. I won't go on. And then you have to close down the company.
Yeah.
Another possibility is that you get someone saying the company is doing okay, but it's not growing. So we are not interested to remain there because it's not going to get a good return.
Okay.
So what we do is we reach an agreement with the entrepreneur and sell him back our shares over a period of time. Okay? And then the other possibility that happens is that it grows very rapidly and needs a lot of money and is not able to get the next round and fails because of lack of money.
Okay.
Those are the 3 cases that we entertain and we find very often.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that's all my questions pretty much.
Okay, we still have some time. If there is anyone from the audience that want to have a question? Jordan, to me?
How old am I? I'm 16. Yeah.
Maybe a question. I have 2 children. They are 16 and 13, and they entertain sometimes this idea to have business. What would you tell them? What would be your advice?
My advice, I think it would be just important to embrace the internet. Like, there's so much information on the internet and there's so much support out there, especially for young people in recent years. So embrace the internet. I think, just getting a support network, just having people around you that can help you out. Like, for me, it's my family, it's my friends. I have a lot of mentors that have helped me, and just, if it wasn't for their support, I probably wouldn't have carried on when I had problems. So just embrace the internet. The internet is an amazing tool for young people, and just get a support network, really. That's what I'd say.
We have another 5 minutes, so any other question?
Maybe, yes. Okay. But you mentioned the European Commission earlier. You were working on the digital agenda.
Yeah.
And what are your feelings about it? I work now for the startup initiative we have at the Commission.
Okay.
So just to know, what was your feeling about it? Do you think perhaps it's going somewhere, or do you think the Commission as such is still lagging behind the needs of the entrepreneurs, startups?
Yeah, I thought I sort of was pretty interested in it. I was working a bit with Nelly Cruz, who I think she's really passionate about entrepreneurship, and she embraced a lot of young people like me. So with her sort of guidance over it, I think it was I thought it was really good. I liked it. Obviously she's gone now, but I was just there to sort of give a young person's perspective on it, what I thought of it, and I thought it was pretty good.
They were receptive.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely took my advice on board, so it was good. Yeah. Thanks.
Have you ever thought about retiring?
Not yet. I don't think. I have a couple more years yet, I'd say. Just like I'm always like I'm driven by what I want to do, and I don't ever want to be bored. So like if I did get to sort of the end of a project, I probably wouldn't retire. I'd probably start a new one.
What is your dream?
My dream, just to. I'd like to obviously just be pretty successful. I definitely want to create my own job. Ideally, I don't want to like work for someone else. I just want to be an entrepreneur, run my own companies, and then I'll be fairly happy. Yeah.
One last question. Well, thank you very much, Jordan,
Thank
for
you.
being here. I mean, we appreciate it. It's been superb.
Thanks very much. Thank you.